parenting doesn't create marriage problems. Parenting reveals marriage problems.
Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So many times people will say, well, it's since we've had kids, our marriage has gotten harder. Well, no, your children, parenting has only exposed what your marriage is all about. Like
Right.
It was already there.
You're listening to the Favorite Marriage Podcast with Monty and Jeannine Mora, a place where you and your spouse can experience God's favor on your forever. Enjoy this week's episode of The Favorite Marriage.
Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Favorite Marriage Podcast. We are your hosts, Monty and Jeannine Mora. And this episode is episode 74, and we're going to be talking about a subject that we've titled Going from Lovers to Leaders. And this episode is primarily going to focus on parenting, couples who are in the arena of parenting children. And so this episode, we believe, is pretty important because if you are married and you have kids, then you know exactly what I mean by saying this is important, because raising children and keeping your marriage a priority is a pretty big feat.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. It's very possible, but it takes a lot of hard work.
It does. It does. It's a balancing act for sure. And so the reason why we felt like this week we would just focus in on parenting is I don't think we have done just a single episode focused just on parenting, have we?
No.
And we realized, go ahead.
No, we've talked a little bit about that in episodes, but
Yeah.
never one entirely like we're doing now.
Right. And so this last week, we had the amazing privilege of being able to speak at it's not MOPS anymore, it's MEMS, Moms Encouraging Moms. And it was such a blessing that they invited Monty and I to come speak on marriage and parenting. And there was such a great need. Like, these women were so hungry just to hear like how to do this balancing act. And so we just felt like, that there's probably a whole lot more people that need to hear this message. But also their questions that they had after, really, I mean, they were challenging questions, but we were, by the grace of God, we were able to, I believe, answer as best as we could these questions. And they left encouraged, and we left encouraged as well, just knowing the path that the Lord has brought us through over the years of parenting, that He is using it for the good. Sometimes in parenting, you just feel like you are just blowing it. And there's been times in our marriage where we have just felt like we blew it. We should have never signed up for this. Well, we didn't sign up for it. Well, I guess you kind of do sign up for it when you get married, right? But just the times that I know I felt as a mother that I failed. But then God has His grace. Thank God for His grace. His grace is sufficient.
Yeah.
How He's turned it around, and He's allowed us to be able to share our struggles, but also the victories through those struggles of parenting and also balancing marriage life. So it was a great time we had this last week.
What I find amazing about being able to speak at this Mom Encouraging Moms group is this has been our third speaking opportunity in moms groups.
Yeah.
We talked twice at MOPS, which is now MomCo, and we spoke at MomCo in Colorado Springs about a year and a half ago, and then just this past week at Moms Encouraging Moms. And
Yes.
It's pretty neat how God is using us, our marriage, the podcast, to speak into that arena. I just find it really, really amazing. And so thank you, moms.
Yeah.
Leadership groups that are inviting us, and man, it's been truly a blessing.
Yes, it has. So let's get into what we shared with them this last week.
Yeah. So parenting is part of what we do as married couples. If you're a married couple, you have children, you're parenting, and one of the things that we talked about, in which became the anchor truth, is that marriage is the foundation for family, and marriage is a foundation for parenting. And when you're married and then you have children, we said you get promoted. And the promotion is you become leaders now.
Right.
And so you move from lovers to leaders. because now you're guiding, you're directing, you're leading. And I like how you use the analogy of the business, where we were the owners and, the kids are the kind of like the employees, so don't hate on us for that. But we use that as an analogy. But as owners now with employees, as lovers with children, we now have a higher responsibility. And so that's why we said we get promoted.
Yeah. So let's bring some clarification to that analogy. What we were talking about, like, we're not making our kids our slaves, or we're not paying them as employees, but it was just an analogy to kind of give you an idea of when you do come into marriage and there's no kids at first, and there's this husband and wife. It's kind of like a business owner who has this vision for his future, and of course you start with just a business partner and you have this vision and you have this plan, and then along comes the opening of your business, right? Which in this analogy would be your family. And then you have children, and then you have to care for those children, and you manage them and all those things. And that's what we mean. We don't pay our kids. I mean, I did have a mother the other day. We were just chit-chatting, and she says that is the reason why we have kids, right? So that they can work for us when we're older. And just thought that was kind of funny, but no, that's not what we meant. But it kind of puts in perspective.
Sure.
The care that you need to put in. And we do have a lot of business owners out there who tend to maybe not relate those two. And think about how much time and effort and planning and vision that you put into a new business if you are an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. It's that same effort, even more so when you're building a family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
I want to say, because I know there's somebody out there that's going to hear this, hearing us say that marriage is a business transaction. And we're not saying that. We believe marriage is a covenant. It is a covenantal relationship between a husband and wife. We simply just use that as an analogy. So please, because there's a big debate: is marriage just a transaction between two people for the rest of your life? No, it's not that. Marriage is a covenantal relationship between a husband and wife, right, man and woman, for the remainder of their life till death do they part. So again, give us a little bit of grace. We're using our creative imagination there, but we shared that with the moms group. But
I do want to also mention, because you said that marriage is the foundation, and then you have children.
Yeah.
There's a lot of marriages we know out there that you started with your kids. You walked into a marriage, committed, made that covenant with your spouse, and you already had children. That doesn't mean that you can't still make marriage the foundation, which that's the way it should be. And we see it all the time. There's not that process that happens when we have a blended marriage.
Blended family.
Blended family, yes, blended family. And in their marriage, they tend to keep the kids off to the sides, and there's just the marriage between the husband and wife, and that's all they're trying to connect. And we really encourage you, as you listen to this study that we're doing today, is to ask yourself, is that the healthiest way to do it? Which we believe not. We believe that it's the healthy way to do that is to make your marriage, whether it's a blended family or not, the foundation. And then you will see that family will blend a whole lot smoother when you put your marriage first.
Yeah. Parenting stands on marriage.
Right.
Marriage does not stand on parenting.
I love that.
And
that's so good.
That's important to understand, because many couples will get those two priorities mixed up. Mm-hmm. They know that God is first, and then when they have kids, they'll put the kids first before the marriage, and the marriage gets the leftovers, which we talked a little bit about that in our last episode. But remember that parenting stands on marriage, not marriage does not stand on your parenting.
Yeah. And the reason why we titled this episode Lovers and Leaders is because kids don't cancel romance, right? Mm-hmm. Just because the kids come in, that doesn't mean we don't get to have the romance and sexy time and all the good things that we love about marriage, they expand responsibilities, right? So
It's good.
you just expand your bandwidth, right? It just becomes a little wider. The responsibilities. It's not just husband and wife, but when kids come along, then we expand.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to make room for growth, right? Yeah.
Literally, that
Yeah.
happens as well, at least for the women.
And so that's where the leadership.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, we won't talk about stretch marks in this episode, right?
It's real.
Yeah.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. And you might be asking yourself, like, man, we're in the grind of parenting, we're in the grind of marriage, and you might be feeling like marriage is harder right now. Marriage is more difficult. And the reason why is because you're leading. You're leading. You're running kids around, you're changing diapers, you're feeding kids, you're working to put food on the table, and there's a lot that goes on. And so that's that leadership responsibility that a husband and wife engages when children come along. Now, parenting doesn't create marriage problems. Parenting reveals marriage problems.
Right. Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. So many times people will say, well, it's since we've had kids, our marriage has gotten harder. Well, no, your children, parenting has only exposed what your marriage is all about. Like it was already there. But now that you have children and their stress, it reveals what's in the marriage. Like if we become critical or sarcastic and attacking each other, that's been there. It's just the stress of the parenting has brought that to the surface. So that's what I mean where I say parenting doesn't create marriage problems. It reveals the ones that are already existing.
Right. It's kind of like that analogy, another analogy. I've heard you say plenty of times about whatever's in the toothpaste, or they just see what's in there, like just squeeze it. How do you say it?
So if you ever want to find out what's in a tube of toothpaste, put pressure on it and squeeze it. And what's ever inside is going to come out.
It's toothpaste.
Yeah. But you talk about pressure for human beings.
I'm just messing. Okay, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But that's exactly true. Like in a marriage, when the kids come and they start putting that pressure on, what's already been there is
what's already inside. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. All right. So we just went from leadership to toothpaste squeezing. Yes. That's a whole nother. Never mind. Let's not even go there yet. Jeannine, why don't we address a little bit about coming from a mom perspective, and maybe I can talk about it from a dad perspective, but address the mom guilt that you as a mother of 3 kids have felt in times in our marriage where you have, you're just kind of feeling a little bit guilty because you've been neglecting certain things within the marriage. Can you talk about that mom guilt?
Well, I think that came for me when I didn't realize that putting my marriage first was the plan of God. Because, I mean, if you look in Genesis, there is a process in how he created things. And he started off with husband and wife, Adam, then Eve, and then children, right? So a lot of times when, I know in my case, when you become a mom, especially if you're a mom or a woman who has really struggled with self-esteem or self-worth, which that was my case growing up. When you have children, you feel so needed, and there's just like this void that's filled if you're not feeling it in the correct way, the way that the Lord would want you to feel it. There's just this overwhelming desire to just put everything into your kids, right? Because they're the ones that, I mean, you birthed this child. I mean, it's like this, you're just awestruck on what you were able to accomplish being a mom. It's hard to explain to a dad, but you carried this precious little baby in your womb. You felt it growing and kicking. And then when it came out from you, it was like you almost want to do everything you possibly can to keep it attached to you as close as you can, because for those months of it growing in you, there was such a closeness. And I know men out there, you probably will never understand this, but sit and ask your wife and have that conversation with her, and you might be able just to get a little bit of a glimpse of just the miracle of becoming a mom.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say that it's very easy to put your children in first place. And sometimes we don't even mean to do it. It just naturally happens because, you just get into the grind of raising kids. Now, don't get me wrong. When I say putting them first, there's a lot of times in parenting that your children will come first. Like when you have a sick child and your spouse just passed away and you're tending to your child. I'm talking about putting them first all the time in an unhealthy way. But the mom guilt comes from when you realize, oh, I'm still married and I have a husband that needs me.
Hey, I'm over here.
Yeah, and desires. And then I give to you. You almost feel guilty for not giving to the kids. Or I know for a lot of vacations or things that we would do on our own, it was always my mind on the kids. Oh, the kids would have loved to be here. Oh, don't you think, Caleb and Jared and Janisa would just love to have been a part, or they would just love this place. It was always them on the forefront of my mind. And it was almost like this guilt of not bringing them. Mm-hmm. But that's not, that shouldn't be, you should be able to release and let go. And you're going to miss them. And you have those disconnects and those times where you will have to, cut the cord.
Yeah.
But that guilt it could damage that relationship between your husband.
Yeah, because in many cases the husband can feel left out.
Right.
The husband can feel like just a side dish to everything else happening. Like
you're just macaroni and cheese, baby.
We're just we're just the mashed potatoes. We feel mashed up. And so that's where, if a husband is feeling that way, and maybe the wife doesn't know that he's feeling that way, that's a great opportunity for that husband to engage the wife in conversation and talk about how he's feeling, feeling left out, feeling like too much priority is on the kids, and he's kind of feeling just sidestepped a little bit, and he needs to speak up and he needs to voice that. In order to keep their marriage a priority and marriage number one on this side of heaven. Obviously, God is number one, and then on the earthly realm, priority number one ought to be the husband, the wife, the marriage relationship.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this other idea, because you did a great job in talking about the mom guilt. But let's talk about the other idea of how when we bring children into our marriage, into the home, into our family dynamic, now the kids start watching us. Mm-hmm. There are little eyes. Like in our house, there was 3 kids, 3 sets of eyes watching us. They're watching everything that we do. They're observing our marriage. They're observing how we talk. They're observing how we engage. They're observing how we sleep. They're engaging everything about us, how we support each other, right? These little eyes are watching every little thing. And so the big idea here is, because our children are watching us, it is our responsibility as a husband and wife to create that emotional climate in the home, that spiritual climate in the home. It's our job to create that temperature in the home, because if our children are watching, we want them to see some very good things modeled in front of them, right?
Right. I think one of the biggest things that they should not see is a competition between them and us. And that is, that happens a lot, especially in the blended families where there's just like this competition. And in a healthy marriage, parenting and marriage shouldn't be a competition. It should be there should be a completion. Like parenting completes marriage, right? There's this.
You mean marriage completes parenting?
Maybe, is that what I'm trying to say?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, I'm just saying that the two together makes completion, right? Like there's the complete home.
Yeah, not a competition.
Not a competition.
Yeah.
We complete each other.
Yeah.
The marriage and the children. So if they see that and they see the healthiness in that, then they're going to grow up understanding that they aren't number one, and they're going to be okay with that. And the reason why they're okay with that is because they see the love between mom and dad, and it brings security, and it brings just that firm foundation in the home. When kids are allowed to come in and bring competition, there's going to be just that. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess, just instability is what I'm trying to say. There's an instability in the home because, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, marriage should be the foundation. And as long as they are allowed to come in and pull and try to, I guess, play sides sometimes.
Bring division,
all those things, then that instability will creep in and will grow like a weed. Like it'll crack the foundation of your family.
Yeah.
So ask yourselves today as a husband and wife, do we allow our kids to compete with our time? Do we allow our kids to compete with our priorities and how God would want us to set our priorities? I mean, there's just a whole list that you can just make for yourselves and just ask yourselves the hard questions. And it's never too late to even establish that even in your home. And I mean, it may be years, but you might just have to sit down and have a family meeting and say, listen, we're doing this thing wrong. And there's nothing greater than for you to show humility to your kids, and that you don't always get it right, but have humility and repent and change things. Wow, that speaks so much to them at any age, teenager to a child, So take inventory of your home today and maybe just ask, is there some unhealthy competition?
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the competition you have on board game nights. That's fun.
Yeah, that's different.
That's good. That's healthy.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, Jeannine, not only should the husband and wife have that conversation, but they should be communicating that to their kids. Like letting their kids know that we're not a house divided. And we as your parents will not allow you to make us, our marriage, and you guys a competition. We are about completing each other.
Yeah.
We complete one another as a husband and wife, as your mom and dad, as your siblings. We're a united front. And whenever there's division, like scripture says, a house divided is not going to stand.
Right.
And so that's why, having even these conversations with your children and letting them know that, hey, we're all on the same page. We're in this together, whether it's a blended family or not.
Yeah.
That needs to be communicated loudly and clearly.
Absolutely.
And that's one way we provide an exampleship, because not only our kids are seeing us, but they're actually hearing us as well. Yep. And they're seeing humility. They're seeing how well we communicate. They're seeing the importance of how we reconcile. They're seeing the importance of how we communicate together as a family. And I think them watching all these things and hearing these things would only bring the family closer together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We complete, not compete.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might be asking yourself, how do you do that? Especially with the blended family. It's difficult, but I just want to speak to the marriage side. The moment you said "I do" to your spouse, you established that covenant of one flesh. And when you are one flesh, it's like that whole clay part. So you are one piece and your spouse is the other piece, and you might have a mixture of colors, which are your children, and your spouse might have a mixture of colors, which is their children. But in marriage, and you are one flesh, you mix that whole ball of Play-Doh together. There isn't no separation, and he's mine and she's my kid and he's your kid, and you deal with them and you deal with them. No. If you truly understand one flesh marriage, how God intended it to be, then the moment you said I do, the kids are blended. Mm-hmm. And at that point, you really need to work through. And it's a process, especially if the children are older. It'll be a process, but don't give up on the process of blending. And that's your everyday life, in and out, is to blend that Play-Doh to where you guys are one. And I understand that there's the outside parents, these because you got two sets of parents now, and there's not always a good relationship there. I know that there's situations like that. But if you're doing what you need to do in your home, as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord and blend, then I promise you, when kids leave and they come back, they're going to recognize what they're going to want in their own life and in their marriage and their future.
That's good. That's a really good point that you just brought up. As we're looking at this idea of lovers and leaders loving each other, leading our children, we highlighted some really, really important pieces and aspects in this episode. And to kind of finalize some things as we're talking about our children are watching us, here are a couple things that they should be observing. They should be observing respect when we disagree. They should be seeing that in action.
Yeah.
They should be seeing affection with apologies. We're going to have intense emotional moments, but they should also see apology. They should see humility. They should see repair after something has been ruptured within us or within the family. But when we model these things, we're teaching our children that when they have a family, when they're married one day, they can look back and say, hey, this is how mom and dad did it. And that's the part of leadership that is so powerful. I know you shared a beautiful story with the moms about our daughter-in-law Lexi and the text message she sent you on her 30th wedding anniversary.
Sent to us.
Yeah, sent to us. But it was such a beautiful text message. Basically, she was saying, you might want to dive in here, but can you kind of paraphrase what she said? Can you remember that?
She just talked about our exampleship, which was just very humbling that she, from the outside looking in, saw what we worked so hard at, and for our own children to see that and to recognize it was just heart touching. And then she also just talked about how she would want her and Caleb's marriage to replicate that, and that in itself is so humbling.
Yeah.
And just grateful to God for where he's brought us from. So I think when you think of leaders, and most people out there could probably agree that the best leaders, whether it's business, over a nation, over, a home, are leaders who have humility, who are humble and willing to say when they're wrong and they've done wrong, and also ask for help, and so I think when we model that as a husband and as a wife to our kids, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, that's so good. Oh, we hope this episode was a blessing to you, and you might be listening to this episode as you're folding laundry, making up kids' beds, making dinner, or maybe you're doing that mom or dad taxi right now and you're driving your child to practice or to school. We want to say congratulations. You're doing it.
You're
You're
doing
leading it. You're taking that leadership role. And so thank you for tuning in today. One of the reflection questions we gave to the moms that day was, what do you want your kids to say about your marriage someday? And we talked a little bit about that. So we want you to ponder that question as a husband and wife. What do you want your children to say about your marriage someday?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question to consider.
Right. And as you're thinking in your mind right now, looking at the loads of laundry, driving kids to school, picking them up, dropping them off, picking them up, dropping them off. How do I make time for my marriage?
Yeah.
Right? How do I do this with all of these to-do lists and everything I got going? We left them with a very important nugget as well. And we told them that what is so important in these seasons of busyness in life is the quality of time over the quantity of time. So don't guilt trip yourself about the quantity of time that you're spending together. Fight for it. Fight for that time for one another as a husband and wife. But if it's just a little bit of time, but it's quality time, then you're doing it. You're making those efforts and you're moving towards that oneness and keeping that one flesh mesh going.
Yeah, one flesh mesh. Yeah. So what would be that one small little thing you can do this week with you and your spouse to keep your marriage number one? It could be just something very, very small. And then what could be something small that you can do this week to let your kids know, hey, we love you, we're your leaders, we care about you, and we're all in this together. Some good things to ponder and think about.
Leading them in the way they should go.
Yeah.
So when they are old, they shall not part.
Yeah, for sure.
And lovers.
Don't
forget the lovers part.
Yep.
By the
I love it.
Training up children in the way they should go. These Bronco jerseys, if anybody's watching this, currently in the 2026 NFL season, go Broncos.
Go Broncos. Yeah. And we're also hoping and praying and believe we have some kids in our family that are diehard Broncos fans. We have one child that is kind of swaying away.
Yeah, don't say who.
And leaving the path.
But she's getting married soon.
Yeah, but we believe that train up a child in the way they should go. And when they get older, they will return back to it.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
She's a Bears fan.
Yeah. The Bears.
Because her fiance is a Bears fan.
Yeah.
But anyway, just some fun. We thought we'd have a good time wearing our jerseys today.
Yeah, and all fun. So we are saying go Broncos, and hopefully they can bring home a Super Bowl to the state of Colorado where we reside.
Let's start with an AFC championship first.
Yeah. Hey, you all know that there's no one size fits all when it comes to marriage. Each marriage is unique. Each marriage is special. And hopefully we've given you a marriage tool for your marriage toolbox today regarding parenting and marriage, that marriage arena. And so if you are new to the podcast or new to the podcast community here at The Favorite Marriage, thank you for listening and tuning in. And we are just praying that, man, that you would have a very, very blessed week. And as always, before we conclude every podcast, we like to say these fantastic words. We are praying that you would experience God's favor
on your forever.
And until next time,
keep showing up.